We are doing a realistic mock draft for the Steelers. I think this is my first one for the whole year, and we're already in April. I've been slacking a little bit, but at the same time, I haven't because it hasn't. I think for the Steelers world, it hasn't really been the most pressing of things. Free agency definitely was a priority, and then obviously a lot of this Aaron Rodgers talk, this Aaron Rodgers buzz. But now, second day of April, it's time to start talking draft. It's time to start discussing what the Steelers might be doing here. And this mock draft I'm going to be discussing is not necessarily what I would want to the fullest extent. I'm good with what I have here. I'm definitely good with the picks I have the Steelers making, but I think this is more about what I think the Steelers, Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin, and Rooney are going to do. And if they go this route, if they go how I predict, I will be good with it. Again, I will say that. But before we talk mock draft, before we get into that, I also wanted to go over the Steelers over-under win total for the season. DraftKings dropped the over-unders, and Steelers are in that familiar place of 8.5 wins. I think we've been predicted like 8.5, 9 wins over like the last 3 or 4 seasons. And every time I've taken the over, and every time I have benefited from taking the over. So I got to do it again this year. I have already placed my bet. I've already put my investment in, and I'm taking the over for the Steelers again. And there's a couple of reasons why. One, I like some of the moves that we're making in free agency. I do expect us to have a pretty solid draft. I do also expect us to have Aaron Rodgers as our quarterback. But also just the fact Mike Tomlin has never had a season below 500 in his career as an NFL head coach. 18 seasons. So why all of a sudden am I going to go against that track record? Why am I all of a sudden for this season going to go against that history? I'll take the 18 for 18. You know what? He's 100% in not going below 500. Now, if he has an 8-1 season, then whatever, man. Whatever. I could live with being wrong because we go 8-1. The chances of that happening very, very slim. But in all the seasons since, because he does have some 500 records on his resume. I think it's like 4. I think it's only 4 out of those 18 seasons. But those were all seasons before the NFL switched to 17 games. And the seasons that it's been 17 games, I think it's been the last, 3 or 4? All above the 8-win total. So if I'm just going to look at history, I'm going to look at track records. Mike Tomlin gets over 8.5 wins. And then you want to add some of the stuff we've been doing in free agency in this offseason. I like our chances, man. I like our chances. Now, the different story is us winning the division, us winning a playoff game, us being a top 2 seed, us being Super Bowl contenders. I think those are different bets. Those are different stories. Those are different conversations to have. But in terms of these early win totals that DraftKings has dropped and having the Steelers at 8.5 on the line, over under 8.5, I'm taking the over, and I already have taken the over. I put my money where my mouth is. Trust me. And if this is going to be the season that Tomlin goes under 500 or doesn't get over 8.5 wins, then all right, I'll be wrong on that because I've been hitting on this over under for the last 3 or 4 seasons because it's what Tomlin does. It's what the Steelers do. So I mean, it's not going to be hurting me too much because I've been hitting on it at 100% clip. So if it doesn't hit here, okay, 75%, still not a bad winning percentage there on the win total over unders. So it's one of those things. I'll believe it when I see it. That's kind of where I'm at with these over under win totals, especially when the line's at this 8.5 is hovering right around 500. I will take the over. I will believe it until I see it. Once Tomlin actually gets under 500, then we could start having different discussions regarding these win total lines. But yeah, I think it's just a no-brainer. Like that's where my mind's at. It's just a no-brainer. Tomlin's done it for all 18 seasons. He's never gone below 500. And in the 3 or 4 seasons we've had 17 games, he's always been over this number. And if we're legitimately going to get Aaron Rodgers, we get the DK Metcalf trade. We don't have too many needs heading into this draft. Picking up a Darius Slay, picking up Eccles from the Jets and Malik Harris. Like, I like the moves we've made in free agency. Not bringing Najee back. I think we'll get more explosive on offense. I think we're at least going to be doing this. Like, we know the floor. That's the floor. That's the Steelers and Mike Tomlin's floor, at least above 500. 9 wins, 10 wins. That's the floor. Can we raise our ceiling? That's the big discussion. That's the big debate right now. But in terms of this little prop, I like the Steelers over. Let's get to this mock draft now. So, as I said, this is based off realism. This is based off what I think ultimately is going to happen. Based off meetings the Steelers have had with certain prospects, based off the team needs, based off historically how the Steelers kind of draft, even though we can't go too far back in history like the Kevin Colbert years, because I feel like Omar Khan is his own man. He runs the ship his own way. And the way he's been running it, trades are definitely a possibility, which is why for our first round pick, I actually have us trading back. And I'm basing this off of a couple mock drafts that I did earlier today as like my baseline or my basis here. And in one of them, and this is what I'm going to do for the mock draft, the one trade that was offered to me, I'm just going to take it and use it for today's show. The one trade that was offered to me in the first round at pick 21 was the Eagles trading up. So we're swapping first round picks. They're picking at 32, obviously, because they won the Super Bowl. And we're giving them our 7th round pick, a first round pick, and then they're giving us our 2nd round pick. It's their first and second. Their first and second for the Steelers first at 21, and our last pick in the draft, our 7th round pick. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, this is what the Steelers need to do. And I've been saying it the last couple shows as we're looking at the current landscape and what the Steelers' needs are, talking about interior defensive lineman and running back. If we're not going to go quarterback in the first round and Rodgers is going to be our guy and we feel like we could wait on quarterback, we're not stressing about it. We could spend a late round pick on them and have them be like the 3rd guy and have them compete with Mason and do that type of thing. Then it'd be way smarter to trade back because we don't have a 2nd round pick. Let's gain another day 2 pick in the process and still get one of the guys that we're looking at pick 21 anyway, because there are talks that some of these defensive tackles are going to be there in the late first round, early second. There are conversations about a lot of these running backs still going to be there in that range, but also even into the 3rd round. So like we could still get both guys that we're looking for and not have to have any trade-offs of, man, if we just take one of these guys, whether it's defensive tackle or running back, the opposite may not be available in the 3rd just because you have to wait so long. Why not just have that security of having an extra day 2 pick, particularly in this case, that last 2nd round pick at 64, and then still be able to get a high quality guy late in the 1st or early 2nd. So that's why we're doing this trade with the Eagles. So the Eagles pick is at 32, round 1, pick 32. And then we get that 2nd round pick at 64. We give up 21, so we're not picking the 21 anymore, and we give up our 7th round pick. It's like, to me, that's a no-brainer. Now, I don't know if the Eagles are going to do something like that, but there were a fair amount of, whenever I'm doing these mock drafts, there's a fair amount of offers coming in from various teams. Now, we're not necessarily always getting a 1st round pick, but it's sometimes teams trading their 2nd round pick and a 3rd round pick, maybe even like a future 3rd. So that's all an option too. But for the sake of this mock draft, we're focused on this year. We're not worried about 2026 picks right now. I mean, maybe we should be, but still, for the sake of this argument, for the sake of this mock draft, we did the Eagles trade, and we're picking at 32. And the guy that I have the Steelers taking at that position is Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, defensive tackle. And I think he's going to be there. A lot of the mock drafts I've done, a lot of the research I've done, he's around that late 20s to early late 20s in the first when you're talking about the first round to like early second round range. And the Steelers need interior defensive line help bad. And look at this card right here. Look at the statistics. Height 6'3", weight 342, bench 22. He's a run stopper extraordinaire. But if you watch him, he's kind of like low-key athletic for his size. He could get after the passer. He could move side to side, not to the best extent or anything, but for what he is and what he's known for, like that's just some icing on the cake with Kenneth Grant. And why I think this makes sense for the Steelers, I mean, he's coming out of Michigan, a blue blood university that always is churning out pro prospects. That's something that Tomlin loves. I don't think it's a coincidence why we have a lot of Alabama guys. We have Ohio State guys. We have Georgia guys on our roster. So him coming out of Michigan, that's one thing. Another thing is we've met with him at the Combine. And by all reports, all accounts, we had a pretty intense meeting with him. We had a significant meeting with him. And we told him that we're looking for competitors who are ready to go. And in my opinion, just from watching the tape, watching the highlights with Kenneth Grant, like that's who he is. Now, McShay came out with something recently that he thinks like Kenneth Grant takes plays off. It's like, I don't know, man. I just feel like that's a subjective opinion on all this. Because who were they also saying was taking plays off back in their days in college? Guys like Jordan Davis, guys like Jalen Carter, no? And we see how they turned out with the Philadelphia Eagles when you're talking about interior defensive linemen, run stopper, dudes that can plug holes and just be monsters in the middle. And Kenneth Grant, maybe not to that extent of Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, fits that mold. And that's exactly what the Steelers are looking for. Now, there's a debate for a couple other interior defensive linemen at this point. Now there's going to be guys that are gone, but Derek Harmon still might be around at pick 32. Tyleik Williams from Ohio State, he should be around. He's more of like a early second round prospect. Now, those guys, a little bit more athletic, can move side to side better than a Kenneth Grant, can chase down running backs on the perimeter to a higher extent, can play across the line better than Kenneth Grant. Because Kenneth Grant, he's more of like 0 tech, 1 tech in the middle, that type of prototype. Whereas Derek Harmon, you can play him 1 tech, 3 tech, 5 tech. You can play him all across the line. I feel like the Steelers need a Kenneth Grant right now. That's what we need as opposed to like a Derek Harmon, especially with us already having Keanu Benton. We need, I'll put it to you this way. Kenneth Grant, more of the Casey Hampton mold. It's not one-to-one comparison, but more like Casey Hampton. Derek Harmon, a little bit more like a Stephon Tuitt type. Aaron Smith type. We need a Casey Hampton right now. This defensive line, this defense for the Steelers, we need a Casey Hampton. We need someone that can stop the run. That wild card game against the Ravens still haunts me, and I'm sure it still haunts the Steelers, and we want to get over that as fast as possible. So bring in a Kenneth Grant. I think that's the move in round 1. Now, round 2. Again, now we have a round 2 pick with the trade that I did in the mock draft simulator earlier. We have this round 2 pick. We're at 64. We took care of defensive line in the first round. Now, I think it's pretty obvious, right? Our top 2 needs heading into the draft. Let's say we have Aaron Rodgers, which I think we all can assume that's going to happen. I think it's a very, very safe assumption that Aaron Rodgers is going to be our quarterback. So it's just running back and defensive line. Those are the 2 positions that I feel like we need to hit on. And I don't think there's a reason to draft either of those positions at 21 if you know that both of the guys that you might want at those respective positions are still going to be there if you trade back, which is the case in this draft that I'm doing right now. Kenneth Grant, a guy that I'd be completely fine with taking at 21, but there's a good chance he's going to be there at 32, and we're able to get a second-round pick. And even if it's not a second-round pick, we're able to get an additional third and maybe a future pick for a team that wants to trade up with us. It's just like a no-brainer type of move right now as we sit here today. Now, who knows how the actual draft board plays out, but, this is what the mocks, this is what the predictions are. This is what the projections are saying. So, yeah, we got defensive line out of the way. Second round, then it's running back. And there's a lot of good running backs that are going to be available. Now, who I would want in a perfect world in that second round is probably one of the Ohio State running backs, Judkins. But I don't think he's going to be there at 64. But who has a good chance of being there is Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. Now, there's a couple other running backs that I like at this spot too. Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee, he's got a chance of being there. And also Tootin out of Virginia Tech. I think this is just going to come down to what running back style will the Steelers favor. Because Caleb Johnson, he's a little bit like Najee Harris. He's like that bruiser style running back that the Steelers like not only in recent history, but throughout the course of our history. We like big, powerful backs. We like playing ground and pound football, Steeler football, smash mouth football. Caleb Johnson fits that mold. Or are the Steelers trying to get away from that a little bit more as we get into more of this open style offense? It's this modern day age NFL where things are a little bit more open, things are a little bit more fast. Obviously, we did move off of Najee. I think that's a sign. That's a little bit telling. Now, do we want to go full? We don't want anything to do with that style anymore and try to just get two speedy running backs in here because obviously we still have Jaylen Warren. Do we want to pair Jaylen Warren with another speedy running back? And actually, I mean, we have Kenneth Gainwell too. So it'd be three speedy running backs as our top three guys in the running back room. Do we want to go that route? And if you go that route, you're talking about a Dylan Sampson, a Tootin. Even though Dylan Sampson, I wouldn't say he's like shifty or anything. Dylan Sampson kind of reminds me of like an Alvin Kamara or a Gibbs coming out of Alabama now with the Detroit Lions. That's who Dylan Sampson reminds me of. But he like them, has a smaller frame body. And then Tootin, he's kind of like, just like that read zone, that option style running back, the type of offense that 49ers, the Miami Dolphins like to run. That's the type of scheme, that's the type of system that he fits in. Obviously, I think he ran the fastest 40 out of all the running backs at the scouting combine. So that's the type of mold that Tootin is, and obviously kind of like Sampson, smaller frame running back. He's like 5'8", 5'9". But those are guys, like these are the three running backs that I think are going to be available here, or three of the running backs that are going to be available here, and that could fit what the Steelers are looking for. It's just, what are they going to favor? And I think we're still going to go with a more like ground and pound style, a guy that's going to be more of a replacement, hopefully an upgrade over Najee Harris, as opposed to just getting rid of that style completely and going in a different direction and just trying to get a bunch of speedy running backs here. I think we're still going to want some contrast in the running back room is what I'm saying. Like, because obviously with Jaylen Warren and then with the Kenneth Gainwell, that's your electricity. That's like your spark plug. That's your speed right there. But we also need a guy that could run over some people, that could run within the tackles. And Caleb Johnson can do that. And, Najee Harris could do that to an extent, I feel like. But obviously, Najee Harris, from my standpoint, was just capped. He couldn't take runs to the house, and that's something Caleb Johnson can do. I don't know if he necessarily had the best vision either. Caleb Johnson has really good vision, especially for like outside zones. And you want to talk about scheme fit, that's something that Arthur Smith likes to do. And he was doing it last year, maybe to the detriment of our offense at times. You're just like, man, we don't have the personnel for this right now. Why are we doing halfback tosses with Najee Harris? Caleb Johnson, we could do some halfback tosses with him. Almost like Derrick Henry. You could do a halfback toss. He finds the hole. He finds the lane. Once he finds it, boom, off to the races. You see Caleb Johnson do that at Iowa a fair amount. Now, I'm not saying Caleb Johnson is Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is an all-timer, Hall of Famer, but I think Caleb Johnson fits like kind of in the middle between a Najee Harris and a Derrick Henry. And hopefully if we draft him, he's more along the lines of Derrick Henry. I feel like Caleb Johnson would be a really nice pick here. We do need a running back. And again, this is something that fits with what the Steelers would like to do, especially with Arthur Smith being our coordinator here. I think Caleb Johnson would be a good scheme fit. And the fact, too, I just don't think we're going to be going fully away from the prior style of having Najee Harris here, just the prior style in general of Steeler football having a bruising back. Caleb Johnson, he really does fit that mold. 1,537 rush yards, 21 rushing touchdowns last year, led the Big Ten, 1,725 yards from scrimmage, 23 total touchdowns from scrimmage. That also led the Big Ten too. So I think Caleb Johnson, he's the pick in round 2. Now, in this hypothetical world that I'm talking about, we do have this round 2 pick. Now let's get to the rest of the draft. So we still have our 3rd round pick. And now that we got defensive line, we got running back out of the way. This is kind of a luxury. Are we looking for a receiver to potentially be Pickens' replacement, give us some added depth for 2025? Are we looking for quarterback who could be 3rd guy on the depth chart, kind of competing with Mason for this year, behind Rodgers? And obviously Mason will head into the offseason as the backup. But, someone just to be that 3rd guy. Someone that would be an upgrade over Skylar Thompson in the room. But also could give us upside, could potentially be the guy down the line, right? Could be the franchise down the line. Could we go cornerback? There's some decent cornerbacks that will be available in the 3rd round too. And I'm thinking we go wide receiver. And the name in particular, I'm thinking is Savion Williams out of TCU. 6'4", 228, ran a 4.48 40. So big speed. At TCU, his last year, very productive, 60 receptions, 611 yards receiving, 51 attempts on the ground. He's a versatile player, 322 rushing yards, and 6 rushing touchdowns. He had 6 receiving touchdowns. So 12 total touchdowns, 933 yards from scrimmage. He even passed for a touchdown too. 81-inch wingspan. Had a top 30 visit with the Steelers. So that's another thing. Like there's already been interest from the Steelers. Top 30 visit. Came to Pittsburgh. He has caught 75% of contested catches. Has a 40-inch vertical. Like, to me, why this makes a ton of sense. Not only do the Steelers do a really good job at taking mid-round receivers and them becoming really solid pros, but like, to me, the way I'm describing him right now, and if you watch some of his tape and just the versatility that he displays, and then the height, the size, the deep threat ability that he has, the contested catch ability that he has, like he's kind of a cross between Martavis Bryant, 2 guys that we've seen in house in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform already. It's a cross between Martavis Bryant and then a guy that we've seen more recently, Cordarrelle Patterson. Because Martavis Bryant had that type of size, a little bit more speedy than Savion Williams. I think Martavis ran like a 4.3. He ran something crazy. But like that's the mold right there. Like he's got the size, he's got kind of like just that archetype of a Martavis Bryant. But Martavis Bryant wasn't in the backfield. He wasn't taking handoffs. He didn't have rushing yards and rushing touchdowns or throwing touchdown passes being used in a gadget type of role. And that's something that Cordarrelle Patterson has done throughout the course of his career. And in particular, like with Arthur Smith down in Atlanta and stuff, and to a lesser extent with us last year, we couldn't get the ball rolling with Cordarrelle Patterson. Just wrong place, wrong time, wrong point of his career. I think we were a couple years too late in signing Cordarrelle Patterson. But like that's what Savion Williams like is to me. Like he fits the prototypical or the ideal receiver size the Steelers look for, like the explosiveness, like the speed, all that stuff. But then also has like that element to his game that Arthur Smith looks for in his offenses of being able to motion them, being able to put them at H-back, put them in the backfield, do all different types of things and have him be a gadget player. And typically when you think of these gadget players, you think of smaller guys like Deebo Samuel, Tyreek Hill, even though Tyreek Hill isn't like a gadget, like he's obviously an all-around great receiver, but you know how teams will utilize like a Tyreek Hill. You think of smaller receivers in those roles. Savion Williams is 6'4" and is able to pull that off and have 933 total yards with TCU and 12 total touchdowns. So, like, I like this pick. Not only are the Steelers interested in him, had him in for the top 30 visit, but I think he provides good wide receiver depth that we still kind of need. Not really after this DK Metcalf trade, but it is some insurance for our two outside receivers in Pickens and DK Metcalf in case one of them go down this season, but also long-term insurance if we can't figure out something with Pickens contract-wise. I think this would be a nice play in round 3. Now, again, if we don't make the trade back, this is way more unlikely. We might have to be taking a receiver in round 4 or making one of these luxury picks in round 4. And I don't even know if we would do that. I think we'd be thinking quarterback in round 4, which is actually what I have us taking in this mock draft, even with the additional second round pick that we got from the trade back. I just feel like round 4, either maybe round 3 or round 4 is like the time for the Steelers to be taking a quarterback. And in round 4, who was available in a lot of these mock draft simulators? Quinn Ewers. And I feel like the connection is obvious. We've been showing interest in him. We had a combine visit. We had dinner with him before his pro day. Productive at Texas, man. Like, you got to give him props. I mean, he doesn't have the most upside. He obviously doesn't have the most talent compared to some of these other guys, but dude gets it done. And I do think he does still have enough talent, though. That's the other thing. Like, I don't think we should discredit Quinn Ewers and his arm ability and what he can do at the quarterback position. Like, he's still very capable. Like, let's not discredit him too much. 67% completion over these last couple of years, averaged 3,500 yards per season, averaged 27 touchdowns and 9 picks per season as well. Played good in big moments, led Texas to their best 2 seasons in a minute. Kind of helped bring them back to prominence. So, like, Quinn Ewers is a nice pick, I think, in round 4. Round 5, I got us taking a linebacker, just some added linebacker depth. Danny Stutzman out of Oklahoma. We met with him at the combine, and it was like an official combine meeting. He was the only off-ball inside linebacker that we met with at the scouting combine. I think that means something. But productive at Oklahoma, 3 100 tackle seasons in the last 3 seasons. So that there's something right there. Good run stopper, good size, like athletic. It kind of fit. I think he's just a worse version of Peyton Wilson. Really, that's it. But maybe he could provide a little bit more in like the run stopping, just because of his added size that he has over Peyton Wilson. Peyton Wilson, a little bit more leaned out than a Stutzman, but you just never know. I think he's one of those guys you get into the system because I don't think Cole Holcomb is going to be here for long. So you bring in Stutzman, you have him compete with like Mark Robinson, have him do some special teams work for his first couple seasons, and see if eventually he could grow into being the guy, being one of the guys at least, one of the main guys, almost like a Vince Williams. So that's what I see the Steelers doing in round 5 for just taking an off ball and inside linebacker. You know the Steelers. We like getting our linebackers in the draft, even if we don't need it that bad. It's just always nice to have that extra insurance. That's what the Steelers program has been built off of over the decades. Really good linebacker play, physical linebacker play, guys that willing to make tackles, get in the backfield, be aggressive, big hits. That's the type of stuff the Steelers are looking for. And Danny Stutzman has some of that in his game. And then round 6, again, we don't have a 7th round pick in this whole mock draft because we traded out of the first round. And that was part of the package. But in round 6, we got to go Desmond Watson, defensive lineman from Florida, the 400-pound dude. We just got to do it. You have to take him with your last pick in the draft because the upside is insane with his size. And we're talking about the Steelers trying to be better at stopping the run on defense. Throwing a 400-pound defensive tackle in there in short yardage situations and goal line situations. That has a really good chance of helping you out. Like, we're not asking Watson to be playing 30 snaps, 40 snaps, down in, down out. Or we're talking at least for his rookie year. Let's just get you in there for like 5 or 6 snaps. The Eagles, if we're going up against the Eagles, they're trying to do a tush push. Get Desmond Watson out there. You want the tush push antidote? Yeah, Desmond Watson. That's the move. You got to take a chance on him. They're saying like he's going to be a late round pick or potentially undrafted. I just think it's so much worth it, especially if you can get his weight down a little bit to something like the high 300s in his first couple seasons, and you could develop him. Like he has a potential to be a legitimate threat for an NFL defense here. Just like a really nice niche, carve out a role of being this run stopper, get out there for like 15, 20 plays. Like, that's his upside, right? That's his upside. That's his ceiling. But even in his rookie year, bro, some teams try to do a QB sneak, a tush push against you. It's short yardage. You're at the goal line. Throw Danny Watson out there. Yeah, Desmond Watson out there. I'm sorry. Desmond Watson out there with a Kenneth Grant, a Cam Hayward, Keanu Benton. Good luck running on us. Good luck. Yeah, I think you just got the upside's there too much. The risk is worth the reward. Absolutely. By wasting a 6th or 7th round pick by getting Desmond Watson in there. You got to take a chance. So that's the Steelers mock draft right there. That's how I have us closing it out. Let me go over the whole draft here. Let me just recap from the start. Round 1, Kenneth Grant. Round 2, Caleb Johnson, running back out of Iowa. Round 3, Savion Williams, wide receiver out of TCU. Round 4, Quinn Ewers. Round 5, Danny Stutzman, linebacker out of Oklahoma. And round 6, Desmond Watson, defensive lineman out of Florida. So that's it for my realistic Steelers 2025 mock draft. I don't think you're going to get a more realistic mock draft out there, to be honest with you. That was pretty damn realistic, in my opinion. But I'll be back tomorrow, 6 o'clock, as always. I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay chilling. Here we go, Steelers. Peace.